Greetings, adventurers. This is Effigy Dragon, and this is Here Be Dragons. This episode, we are looking to do some terraforming as well as some construction. We're going to flatten out some of this terrain, tear down the existing Astral Sorcery Temple, and start building out that structure into something that we can utilize later. What I have done already is put together a bunch of resources. I went back to our spawn town as well as the Mana and Artfiace building and dungeon, and I tore out a bunch of the stonework from the first level of the dungeon, utilizing a new platinum hammer built with silent gear, as well as a platinum extractor or excavator and a platinum saw. I have continued to use platinum as one of the better materials for my base equipment before we start looking to go a little bit further than that. So what I am going to be doing here initially is taking some of the stone and dirt to flatten out that terrain, and then we're going to go ahead and excavate that Astral Temple. So what I am going to try to do here is put together a little bit of a time lapse for us, and after each section that I've worked on, we'll go back and take a high-end view off the top of that scaffolding. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so just starting out here, filling in some of the larger holes in our terrain. I'm not overly concerned about it being perfectly smooth. I just don't want the larger pits for me to be falling into as I do my work. I'm just using some smooth stone that I cooked up earlier, as well as a bunch or a couple of stacks of meadow dirt that I grabbed from the spawn town. Again, I'm just filling in the holes, covering them up so I'm not falling into the pits, especially where they're covered over by some of these small layers of snow. And once I have emptied out what I had in my inventory, I'm going to go ahead and start on that Astral Temple. I'll use my hammer here just to tear down the Astral Temple itself, but I do want to retain those sea lanterns, as I don't have a silk touch pick at this time. I don't want to destroy them and have to reconstruct them later. While I do have a decent amount of reach, I can't quite get to those upper levels, so I'm going to go ahead and pillar up and take them out. But as you can see, the snow layer is still causing me a little bit of trouble and delaying it a little bit. But once I've got this taken down, I can go ahead and start taking down the rest of that. I am planning on utilizing this Astral Sorcery marble in the construction of what I'm going to replace here. And there is a considerable amount of marble in this large Astral Temple. Now, prior to deconstructing this, I did see about picking some up while doing some mining. I did run into an issue where a lot of the marble I was coming across was from Quark and not Astral Sorcery. And for the Astral Sorcery mob itself, it's not viable. You have to use Astral Sorcery marble. Now here, I'm going ahead, I've already pulled out the walls from the temple and retaining the central portion, but I am making a circular setup around the lowest level of the Astral Sorcery marble. I'm using that to retain the floating crystal as the center point of the new construction. So I'm just going up level by level, increasing the size of the circle, using cobblestone as placement blocks. At some point I will have to go back and put some lighting behind the openings that are left from this construction. Otherwise you'll end up having mobs fill up that open air dark space. But again, that's something I'm going to come back at a later point to do. Now that we've gotten a little bit higher up, I'm going to have to start digging out some of the walls, as the original structure space isn't large enough for what I'm going to be placing in here. You can see in the static picture in the background here what it looked like from the ground level after having removed the original temple and the astral marble walls for that. And as we get closer to finishing up here, we'll be able to see what the resulting structure that I'm putting in here will look like from that same vantage point. Running into hitting the caps lock key a little too often, causing some issues. I had to do a quick change in the controls to prevent that from happening. I kept auto running off into the distance. We're almost done here with the highest level and the circular construction that I'm putting in. Here I'm adding some stairs going from the top level back down to the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and grab some marble slabs and cover up the positions where the circles didn't do any overlapping. And a couple more here to finish that off, and there we go. Grab myself a couple of buckets and head back just to do a tiny little bit of detail work. I need some water, and what we're going to do here is add some stairs and waterlog them. As you can see, not quite getting what I want. So after a while I just decided to go ahead and leave it at that. Just a little bit of water feature at the bottom as a nod back to the original temple structure. Okay, so we've gotten the Astral Temple torn down, and we have dug down into the ground, kind of put together a graduated cylinder, going from approximately 19 across down all the way to 7 across at the bottom. We've got the crystal still floating in there. We have our Astral Sorcery crafting table at the bottom still. We've left the sea lanterns floating in the air for now, but beyond this point we'll probably be increasing the size of that, or adding on to it as we begin to put together the various requirements for Astral Sorcery itself. If I were to put a building around it and a roof, we'll probably be seeing a lot of tear down as we progressed on that. So now that we have put together a starting spot for Astral Sorcery, we may be looking at putting together something in this immediate area as well. for our Mana and Artfiace, because we are going to need a space to work some of the rituals for that. And that's something that I'm going to want to start looking into pretty shortly here. Some of the things that we can get from that will allow us to move our mobs from the spawn city, as well as any neutral mobs such as pigs, cows, chickens. We'll be able to capture them, bring them back over here with us, so we can put together the farms for those animals. So we will want to start looking into that. However, for that mod, I did come across some trees when I was initially gathering some dark oak wood and some spruce wood. I came across some mahogany and maple trees. So what I want to do here is just get rid of the materials that I was utilizing during the dig for Astral Sorcery, and we are going to actually run out to the mahogany and maple trees, because I want to show you those real quick as we harvest some of those materials. That's over by the dungeon and the Mana and Artfiace building. So if we teleport back over there, we actually have a space not too far away from here where those mahogany and maple trees are. I did run across those while harvesting a number of dark oak trees in this very forest. So let's go ahead and head out that direction so I can show you what those look like. I'll pick up a couple of those. I'll want to use that dark wood that's available from those trees for our Mana and Artfiace building. I think it'll look beautiful. I'm going to use the mahogany for the roof. That puts together a almost pitch black plank. But here we go. There's our maple, and just over there is our mahogany trees. Let's take a quick look, and you can see what I'm talking about. Look at that wood. And it's our ebony logs from Oh the Biomes You Go. And if we grab one of those and we were to make planks from it, it is almost pitch black. So I think that's going to be a beautiful wood. And if we look at the maple, a little bit lighter, but it gives a very nice kind of off gray wood for that. So I think those will work very well for our Mana and Artfiace building. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab some of these maple logs and some of these mahogany or ebony logs, and we are going to go ahead and see if we can also pick up some saplings so that we can just grow these instead of having to come back constantly and just deforest them. Fortunately, due to the way that these are generated, I cannot really utilize the saw much to take on the whole tree. I'll do a number of them, but not the whole thing at once. And there we go, some ebony saplings. These won't grow quite as impressive back at the home base, but it will generate trees that are a little bit easier to cut down. So I take down this ebony tree. You can see it kind of does it in sections. If I tried it from the bottom, it wouldn't get the whole thing. See, it doesn't even really want to grab more than one log at a time. At that point, my platinum axe is a little faster than the saw. already grabbed a stack just from this one ebony tree. We'll probably do something quite similar for the maple over here as well. Ebony sapling. Oh, we ended up getting the dark oak sapling in there as well. But what we're really looking for next is a maple sapling. Go. There's our maple saplings. We're looking for all these floating pollen blocks, unfortunately. Let's see if we can punch those out of the sky. Can't quite reach that one. Down to the point where you have to use the regular axe to continue cutting this guy down. Again, some very beautiful woods that I think I'm going to end up using the Mana and Artfiace building, at least the first portion of it. That, as well as Astral Sorcery, will require some updates and upgrades as the rituals get more and more complex and we need more and more room to set them up. So there we go. A lot of the ebony wood, which I hope to use quite a bit of the maple as well. We got the saplings we need so we can continue to grow them at our home base. And that's what we're going to go ahead and do. Now there are some other trees pretty close to here, and they are jacaranda. Has kind of a purplish hue to it. Might find something to use them for, but not currently at the moment. The color I'm looking for, although there are a lot of beautiful flowers in this field. And bears! Let's not fight the bears. Get back to our way stream. Get back to home. And see what we can do about putting together a building for Mana and Artfiace. Okay, now we are filling in some of the holes around there and starting to put in an outside wall for what I will be setting up as my Mana and Artfiace structure. Starting out with a good size what's going to be an inner wall. It's about 22 by 22. Then I'm taking our maple logs and setting up some structure points around the symmetrical entrances in the corners. With that initial inner wall set up, I'm spacing out 5 away from that for an outer wall, making this a 34 by 34 square all the way around. So we're covering quite a bit of space for this structure. But I want to make sure that inner section had enough room for some of the larger Mana and Artfiace rituals that we may be doing as we progress, without having to create too many more structures or expand it out too far. I'm leaving spacing for some doors as well, but we'll see how that ends up looking as we continue on. Again, putting in some maple logs. A little bit of a detail, a little bit of, so it appears to be structurally sound as we continue upward. And that's going to be an entrance. I excavated a little bit of the surrounding terrain. Okay, so I've got the inner walls and outer walls for the Mana and Artfiace structure put in. I've carved out the floor for the main ritual space. I may end up having to do some bump outs on the north, south, east, west sides, but I'm using these inner spaces here for storage as well as other items. What I want to do here is put in a floor kind of randomized with the various stone textures that I have, and I am using the cork trowel in order to do this. So I'm just going to be placing them down, filling in this floor, although there may be an occasion in which I will want to take out one of the randomly placed items and fill it back in. So we're just looking here at a random pattern, and we'll take a look at how this is when I am done. Alright, just going to excavate out the ground level for between my inner and outer walls. A lot of dirt here. Using my excavator tool to quickly remove that. And once we hit the stone, going back to that hammer. Pickaxe at this point. Actually, I put together another platinum pickaxe with silk touch capabilities. I wanted to keep that smooth stone, so instead of using the hammer, I went ahead and used the pickaxe. Again, those platinum tools seem to have quite a bit of durability, and with the ability to repair them, makes them very easy to use. With some of the enhancements placed on it, it's a quick tool for removing stone. Alright. Once I empty out a little bit of my inventory, I'm taking a look at what woods I have available for the flooring that I'm going to be putting down. Kind of thinking I want to use the maple and that ebony wood just because of the colors, and seeing if I can pair it with anything else, but oak just a little too bright compared to the maple. Yeah, it just doesn't really look that good with the oak woods. So, taking a moment to ponder. And I was thinking for a moment there, possibly just using stripped logs as a possible pattern idea. Then I did remember I have a couple other logs here that I might be able to utilize. So the ebony didn't necessarily pair badly with the maple wood, but I really wanted to go for a third tone possibly. And the driftwood, kind of a gray between the ebony and the maple, seemed to be a good compromise. Grabbing a couple stacks. We're using the trowel tool again to randomize. And just starting to fill in the flooring to see how that's going to look. So there we go, the start of the flooring for the interior area, the storage area for the Mana and Artfiace building. This is a pretty large build. It's going to take a little while to put together, and I'm going to need to figure out what I'm going to do for the walls and any windows for the interior light. I do think I'll be tossing on a roof as well. I am still considering those ebony wood planks, stairs and slabs for that, but I will be taking that into consideration on how dark that may make the build itself. I may just use those as accents. But I'm going to have to go hunt down some more driftwood for the trinary of maple, ebony, and driftwood planks for that flooring. And we'll see how that goes. It'll take me a little while to get all that. But now you have the start of a Mana and Artfiace structure and the start of a Astral Sorcery structure. And while I do plan on putting the roof on here and not enclosing this, Astral Sorcery does require line of sight to the sky. I don't want to be tearing up roofs or anything like that. Or this will just possibly require some editing as I bump out sections as needed. So thank you for joining me. I know this has been a lot of time lapses as I do a little bit of terraforming, a little bit of tear up, and a little bit of construction. And I hope to show you the finalized Mana and Artfiace building starting next episode, and perhaps then we can dive into that mod itself and start utilizing its capabilities, and we can start bringing in some mobs and start putting together some farms. Also possibly looking into putting in a bridge over into that large cliff face and start building a mine downward. And we do need to start looking into getting into the nether itself, so I need to see about where I can put a nether portal. So we got a lot of stuff that is kind of backing up in the queue here, and hopefully you'll join me as I start tackling those next projects, as well as diving into Mana and Artfiace and Astral Sorcery. Thank you for joining me today, and have a good one.